Hi, everyone. Harry here with a little bit of a panoramic view of what has been the most consistent and sort of overwhelming series of losses in court that I have to believe any administration ever has absorbed. So a political science prof at Stanford has put together what's been going on in the courts, where some 181 times the courts have rapped the administration on the knuckles and said, no, you can't do this. And it really, first and foremost, illustrates the just brazen and rampant illegality and indifference to the law, really, that the administration has been doing under the blueprint of Project 2025 and abetted by the totally supine, quiescent Republicans in Congress. But they are just getting clobbered and told again and again, what are you guys doing? And there's a snowball effect, it would appear, in the numbers and in the actual opinions, because you now have, we just did another YouTube on a Fourth Circuit case where the Fourth Circuit says, in a manner that's becoming all too common, and the administration is just, they are beginning to call out the brazenness of the administration's illegality, whereas there's normally protocols in place that make the judiciary tread very lightly, tiptoe, and basically give at least lip service to the good faith of an administration. And now that is being abandoned. All right, let's go to the numbers, which are stunning. I think they're even big enough that statisticians would tell you they are, statistically significant. But statistically significant are just raw numbers. They are really something. So first, and maybe foremost, the rate of losses of the administration in all the cases. First month out of the gate, February, they lost a little over 50%. March, about 75%. Same in April. And last month in May, a whopping 96% of the judicial decisions, 26 out of 27, went against the administration. Again, this would be stunning for any litigant. Any litigant would I think, decide maybe needs a whole new avocation or vocation. But the United States is careful about the cases it brings, or always has been, and its word is gold, maybe 18 karat, if not 24. But when they step forward and make a claim, the normal stats, and it would be interesting to compile these and see how they compare, are very strong in their favor. I mean, one of the things that are happening now in the DOJ that is being so devastated in the Bondi, Bove, Blanche rule is that the presumption of regularity and the sort of confidence and kind of feeling of purpose that department attorneys not just take to the courts, but really animates them. It's the reason they want to work there. It's just evaporating. Okay, so we have a bottom line that is really monumental. And then the fact of this increase, I don't want to go too strong on it because the numbers, we have 13 cases, 35 cases, 67 cases, 27 cases. So that's not small. And so, I'll just do a little caveat that statistics are tricky topics. And think this, looks strong, but if nothing else, it's anecdotally strong. So 72% of Republican appointees 72% of the time are holding against Trump. Democrats, 80% of the time. 2 points there. 72% is huge. That's a really disproportionate percentage of cases going against the administration, and 72 to 80 is not huge. It's pretty damn close. The percentage of Republicans that are going against him and the percentage of Democrats. And then second, there's, the point, why is it getting worse and why is it getting worse? And I think there's real reason to think it is getting worse, which augurs poorly for the administration and well for the rest of us and the courts holding on the rule of law. I just think cat's out of the bag. And I'll go back again to the very highly respected Chief Judge of the District Court in D.C., Jeb Boseberg, who is still figuring out what to do with the people who were first sent out over his orders on March 15th. But he, a very respected judge on both sides of the aisle, who, of course, roommates with Brett Kavanaugh in law school, who, of course, Trump pillories as does Stephen Miller, as communist or Marxist or whatever they say. He gave a certain permission to other judges, including on the all-important D.C. district bench, which I've been saying this from the start. They were the ones who heard the cases over 3 years about the January 6th marauders. They know what terrible actors and un-American actors they are, and the pardons, which some of them even said publicly, "Don't do this, Mr. President," a remarkable thing for a sitting judge to say. They were the ones who were really kind of affronted by that wholesale move on his first day in office to pardon everyone. Anyway, Boseberg, and then from there you get the judge specifically in the Abrego Garcia case. Then from there you get the judge in the third party's South Sudan case in Massachusetts, who rules the same but really lets them have it rhetorically in the course of the ruling. And I think judges are just really sort of feeling their oats a bit, not to say that they are exaggerating, rather they're not suppressing their own really sense of that we have a scofflaw administration that just doesn't care about the Constitution, something they're not used to seeing, and that they are especially offended by when it's the government that is doing it, because they view the government as having kind of extra responsibilities. So that's one big factor that I think could be leading to a sort of snowballing effect. Then second, the DOJ is a hollowed out mess. They are, so many people have been shown the door. Others have looked for the door and taken it because of the miserable evisceration of the whole way of doing things at the DOJ that the Attorney General has put into place and essentially made their highest calling being the personal lawyers of Donald Trump. So it's a friggin' mess there, and they mess up, or some of them, when they litigate, actually, this has been happening, I've noticed with more frequency just the last 2 weeks, give answers to the courts. They've somehow made the sale within the department that, you're killing us. We can't just go in there and say, we're not talking. We need to have answers. So in another YouTube from today, we have the DOJ coming in and saying Marco Rubio is personally going to try to get people back from El Salvador. That's a big concession, and that's been worked out, negotiated sort of word for word, you can be sure, and the papers as much as show it. So, they're forced to say something, and the fact of the matter is they don't have good legal basis for what they're doing. And so, as it gets fleshed out and as courts have less and less confidence in them, you see them emboldened, the courts, to hand down a whole series of holdings. Indeed, at this point, if you're the judge who says, actually, as a judge said in LA today, who goes against the grain and says, as Judge Holcomb did say, I'll defer and I won't second guess the administration when it says there's an emergency, or just, gives them the benefit of the doubt that other courts aren't, you're going against a certain tide. You hope, and in fact, I believe judges will mainly be looking at the specific laws and facts, but this trend is really strong, and other judges, I'm sure, do not ignore it. Let me make a general point, however, a counterpoint, which is, these are big time issues that are going to go all the way up. And the district courts, which sort of see the facts, see the human cost and face on these really sort of, callous and over-aggressive immigration maneuvers by the administration, are probably more likely to rule in prospective deportees' favor than are the courts of appeals, who are considering the question more in the abstract, arid basis of the right legal answer and the like. And even if they're not, it's the answers of the courts of appeals and the Supreme Court that will matter. So in some sense, while we are reflexively conditioned to ask Trump judge, non-Trump judge, or whatever, I think that a very big divide, bigger in a practical sense, is going to be between district courts. There are 93 districts, and courts of appeals. There are 12, and there's one Supreme Court. These are the issues that are working up. If everyone goes the other way, but the Supreme Court, goes for the administration, that's just as definitive as if everyone goes the same way the Supreme Court. So in that sense, it tells us a lot about courts' reaction. I think it tells us a lot about courts, including the Supreme Court's, likely reserving to itself basic questions of interpretation of the law and the Constitution. And for my money, that's the single most important thing to happen. I think there's going to be quite a lot of damage, including damage abetted by the U.S. Supreme Court, as it did recently in the Humphreys executor case, over the remaining 1,328 days or whatever it is. But so the number one ball I keep my eye on is, will judicial review on basic constitutional questions survive? That is the sort of final door between a full authoritarian society and one that retains the vestiges of democracy and rule of law to at least be able to pick up the pieces. And there'll be a lot of pieces and a lot of demolition when we are on the other side of this most harrowing chapter in American constitutional history. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.